Hey, this is Mrs. Clark, and today I'm going to show you how to code your own pixel art. In this case, we are making a party hat for New Year's Eve or for a birthday, and as people answer your questions, pixels will appear. So you can make your own pixel art and code along with me, or if you want this exact template, you can click on the link in the description and you can follow along. So let's go ahead and get started. The first thing I always do is come up to the percentage here. I like to keep it at 75% so I can see everything, but you can play around with it. And we are going to be writing our own questions. So just click on the box and start typing, and you can make up your own questions and then also answer those questions. So go ahead and write your questions and then answer them. All right, so I have my questions and they are answered, and we're going to talk about the coding now. We're only going to code these 9 boxes, the answer boxes. When we code the box, we're going to tell the computer 3 things. We're going to tell it the column and row that the box is in, so the computer knows what box I'm talking about. And then we're going to tell the computer what needs to be in that box, meaning the answer. So we're going to tell the computer, for example, this box needs to have a 9 in it for the code to work. This box needs to have a 12. When I say that we're going to tell the computer what box it is with the column and row, here's what I mean. This box is in column B. In fact, they're all in column B, so that's pretty nice. That's the column. And then look over here. These are a little bit darker. This is the row. So this box is technically rows 4, 5, 6, and 7. But for the code, I'm going to use the first number, which is the 4. I'm going to tell the computer, I want box B4. And then I'm going to tell the computer that it needs to have a 9 in it. Let's look at this one. I'm going to tell the computer that I want to code box B8 and that it needs to have a 12. This is box B12, and it needs to have the word Broncos in it. This is box B16, and it needs to have 12 in it. That's all the code is. You're just telling the computer what box you're talking about and then telling it what the answer to your specific question is. So with that being said, let's look at the actual scientific code down here. It's basically what I just said, but with a couple little symbols in there that you just have to copy. So the code is equals $column, $row equals answer. In this case, it would be, for this box, it would be equals $B, $4 equals 9. This one will be equals $B, $8 equals 12. That's the code. All right, so let's actually write that code in and see what happens. To do that, I'm going to open up the format window. So if you don't have this window up here, just click on that. So format and come down to conditional formatting. And this is the little coding window we'll be using. If you ever lose this window, you can open it the same way we just did. This is starting a code for this 9 box. If I had an issue with it, I could click cancel, but we're going to keep this code. We're just going to kind of change the color and stuff. Now, I'm going to pick a color that's actually from my party hat. We've got 6 colors to work with here. So, I don't know, let's do the dark gray. That one's easier to see than some of the others. The reason I'm clicking on it is just because I want to look at the paint bucket and figure out what gray this is. All right, it's the 3rd one in on the top. Okay, now I actually have to go back and click on this 9. I want to make sure I'm coding this box. I'm not coding these, I'm coding this one. All right, so coming over here on the right, we're going to do our code. Start on the bottom. I'm going to tell the computer what color I want this 9 box to turn, selecting that dark gray that I was just looking at. So that's why I was looking at it. So otherwise, it'd be hard to find. It was that one. Here we go. Okay, now I'm going to come up and write the code. So I click on this, come all the way to the bottom where it says custom formula is. This is where I write that code we were just talking about. Just tell the computer the column and row of that box and the answer to your question. Equals $B, that's the column this box is in. $4, that's the row. Equals 9, that's the answer to my question. If the answer to your question is a number like me, do it just like this. If it's a word, you have to put quotes around it. I'll show you that in a sec. So technically this code is done. I told the computer if there's a 9 in that box, turn it gray, and if there's not a 9 in the box, don't. The code works, but obviously I want to do something with my party hat. So I don't have to code these boxes. All I'm going to do is I coded that box, and I'm going to bring along the pixels for the ride. To do that, come up here. So this is the same code we were just working on. Come up and hit this little window button where it says apply to range. This is the range that is tied to this code. So far it's got one box. It's this one. I'm going to hold down Control. That's a button on my keyboard, or you can hold down Command if you have a Mac. And now I'm going to click on the dark grays that are in my party hat. And do you see how this box over here is still highlighted? That's good. It's just adding on. That's why I'm holding down Control. It allows me to add on without losing stuff I've already clicked on. And it's adding all these pixels to the code. I'm going to click and drag to get a bunch at once. If you click on something you didn't mean to, like that, you can hit the trash button down here. That's a little more difficult for me to keep track of. Just click on it again, it'll go away. There we go. So I've got my code, and it's this box and all of these. Now I'm going to take my finger off of Control, and I have to do 3 steps. Step 1 is to hit OK on the range. Step 2 is to hit Done on the code. Step 3 is very important and easy to forget. Come up to the paint bucket, click Reset. That's very important. Now everything's still selected, so I'm going to click off of it, come back to the 9, hit Delete or Backspace, and they disappear. Put the 9 back in, or whatever your answer was, and click off of it. You have to click off of it for it to activate. There it is. So it worked. I am going to delete the 9. Don't delete the code. That's good. We're done with that. But I'm going to delete the 9 because otherwise I can't keep track of what I've done. So I want my party hat to be disappearing as I go. Now I'm going to do the next box. I'll click on it, and then do you see how this changed over here? Because this box has a code. This box doesn't yet. I'm going to click Add Another Rule. But first, I'm going to do the light blue, which is kind of like this little highlight here. There's a little bit down here, and there's a little bit in the confetti. And if it's hard for you to see, to be sure, it's okay, because all these blues are kind of similar, and it's just shading, so it'll still look like a party hat. But before I code, let me just look at the paint bucket and make sure I know where to find that blue. So it's the lightest, or it's the first custom color. Okay, coming back to the box I'm actually coding, which is this one. I'm going to come over here and click Add Another Rule. And then I'll do it all over again. I start at the bottom and tell the computer what color I want, which is this color. Now I'm going to click, come down to Custom Formula Is, and I'm going to write my code again, telling the computer the column and row of this box and telling it that it needs to equal 12. Equals $B, that's the column, $8, that's that right there, the first one, equals 12. That's the answer. Technically my code is good, but I want to bring along pixels from the party hat. Slide this over, hold down Control so you don't lose that one, and I'm going to select all of the light blue. And again, if it's hard for you to see which one's the light blue, that's okay, because this is just shading. It's just for artistic purposes. It does not have to be perfect at all. Looks like these. I think maybe there's a couple over here. I don't know if those are, but good enough. So why not? All right, there are my light blues. Take your finger off Control and do those 3 steps. Try to remember what that third step is, the one that's easy to forget. So step 1 is OK on the range. Step 2 is done on the code. Step 3, reset the paint bucket. Click off of it, and now let's test it. They disappear, and then we'll put in both of these. All right, so I have 1, 2, 3, 4 colors left in my party hat. I have dark blue and blue, gray, and light gray. I have 4 left, but I have a lot of questions. So from here on out, I'm not going to do all of one color. I'm going to do about half of it and just kind of see where I'm at so I can finish my party hat at the right time. So I'm going to do some of this gray, but not all of it. Let me find this color in the paint. Okay, 4th one in. And now I'm going to click on the box I actually want to code, which is this box. Come over here and click Add Another Rule. come down to the paint bucket and pick the color that we want, which is this gray. There we go. Now I'm going to write my code, telling the computer the column and row of that box and telling it it needs to have the word Broncos in it. This one is B12, and the answer to my question is Broncos. Now, you might remember me saying earlier that if it's a word, you have to put quotes around it. So this is incorrect, and it's white to show me that it's not working. I'm going to click quotes at the beginning and quotes at the end, and now it's back to gray, so the code now works. I'm going to come up to apply to range, and since I have 7 questions left and only 4 colors, I'm going to split this gray up, meaning I'll do some of the gray but not all of it, and then I'll do some of the gray for like the last question or the second to last question. All right, I'm going to take my finger off control and do those 3 steps. OK on the range, done on the code, and reset the paint bucket. Great. So now I still have 4 colors left and I have 6 questions to go. So I'm just trying to keep track of it. Once I have 4 questions to go, I'll do everything. So I'll do all of what's left for each of these 4. But until I get to that point, I'm trying to split it up a little bit. Let's look at this regular blue here, and I'll do about half of it. Let me see here. That's that middle one there. Clicking on the one I actually want to code, which is this box. Click Add Another Rule, starting with the color. And now I'm going to write my code, telling the computer the column and row, and that the answer is 12 equals $B, $16 equals 12. The code is ready. Now I'm going to add some of the pixels from the party hat. Hold down Control or Command, and I'm going to click on some, but not all, of this blue. And I'm noticing as I do this, there's a couple like light blues I left up there. So I could just make them this blue. It does not matter. It'll still look like confetti, or I can add them back in to the other code. It really doesn't matter. It's still going to look cool, but let me show you how to add it back into the other code, just in case that's something you want to do. Hit OK on the range, done on the code, and reset the paint bucket and delete it. Let's say I wanted to add those 2 light blues. I'm just going to click on these until I find that color. I think it's this one. Yep. And then I'm just going to open this. The code is already written. I'm going to add to the range. That's all. So come over here and just click Add Another Range. Hold down Control and just add them in like that. And so it just adds them to the existing code. So if you leave any behind, you can go back and do them very easily. All right, so at this point, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 questions left, and I have 4 colors: dark blue, blue, gray, light gray. So I'll do like half of the dark blue for this one, and then for my last four, I'll just do 1 color for each, using up all of the color. I'm gonna go ahead and speed up the video now and finish, and then we'll check in at the end and we'll see how it looks. All right, so we're done. I do have one pixel that I realized was a lighter shade of blue, so I could have just coated it with this one and it would have been fine. It just would have been dark blue. But again, if you want to go back and put it in, or if you have one that's left behind, just cycle through till you find that color. There it is. Open the code, open the range, and click add another range. Hold down Control and just select those pixels that were missing, and then follow those 3 steps at the end. Okay, so let's go ahead and put in our answers and see how it looks. And keep in mind, I do have a video over on the bottom right-hand side there that'll help you with common mistakes like leaving pixels behind, or if one of these answer boxes doesn't change color. It's very common to make mistakes when you start out with this, but if you stick with it, it will start to feel easy if you just keep going. So feel free to check out that video. We can actually close this window down. I hope this helps you whether you're doing this template or you're doing your own pixel art. And remember that if you want this exact one with all these boxes and everything, you can get it by clicking on the description in the link below. So